The great void swallowed all sound, all light, save for the ominous glow of the Cthar warships as they cut through space toward the small blue planet. From the command bridge of the flagship Annihilator, Admiral Vexer gazed at the holographic projection of Earth with contempt, his crystalline exoskeleton glimmering under the harsh light of the tactical displays. Such a primitive world, Vexer rumbled, his voice like grinding stones. Standing over 14 feet tall, he dwarfed the other Cthar officers around him. His body, composed of silicon-based tissues reinforced with natural mineral deposits, was scarred from 100 conquests across the galaxy. And yet, rich in resources we require. The Cthar Empire had conquered over 200 worlds across 3 galactic sectors. Their silicon-based biology gave them natural armor, tremendous strength, and lifespans measuring centuries. Their technological supremacy was unquestioned, especially against organic species they universally regarded as inferior. Organic life, in the Cthar worldview, was merely a stepping stone in evolution, fragile, emotional, and destined to be replaced by silicon superiority. Commander Kraz, Vexer's second-in-command, manipulated the holographic controls with his 4-fingered hands, zooming in on Earth's continents. Our long-range scans confirm what our probes reported, Admiral. The dominant species calls themselves humans. They stand approximately 1/6 our height, with no natural defenses. Their civilization has only achieved rudimentary spaceflight and relies primarily on chemical and limited nuclear weaponry. Vexer made a sound approximating laughter, a harsh, grating noise that sent younger officers scurrying away. Show the War Council their military capabilities. The hologram shifted to display Earth's military assets: aircraft carriers, fighter jets, tanks, and nuclear silos. The gathered Cthar military elite chorused with their own grinding laughter. They travel on water? General Mulder snorted, his battle-scarred face twisting in amusement. Using combustion engines? Their aircraft don't even leave the atmosphere efficiently. And these are their space vessels? War Minister Thraz pointed at images of the International Space Station and various satellites. Toys held together by primitive alloys. They couldn't survive a single shot from our tertiary defensive arrays. Vexer nodded, satisfaction evident in his posture. This conquest will be swift. I project total subjugation within 6 planetary rotations. From the back of the War Council chamber, a smaller Cthar officer raised her hand hesitantly. Strategic analyst Ryla was barely 11 feet tall, small for her species, and relatively young at only 72 cycles. Her position was junior, but her analytical skills had earned her an observation role in these proceedings. "Admiral," she said, her voice softer than the others, "I've been studying the intercepted transmissions from Earth for several solar cycles now, and I believe there may be factors we should consider before committing to a standard conquest protocol." Vexer's crystalline eyes narrowed. "Speak, analyst." Ryla stepped forward, activating her own data projection. Humans display unusual patterns of behavior compared to other organic species we've encountered. Their historical records show a remarkable ability to adapt to seemingly impossible circumstances. They've survived multiple extinction-level events through ingenuity alone. She displayed images of human warfare throughout history. Additionally, they exhibit paradoxical tendencies. Despite their fragility, they willingly engage in high-risk combat scenarios. They've developed thousands of combat methodologies despite having no natural weapons. And there's something else. She hesitated. Their transmissions suggest they've been actively searching for extraterrestrial life for over a century. Some of their fictional narratives even anticipate hostile contact. War Minister Thraz waved a dismissive hand. Fantasy and wishful thinking. All species dream of the stars before we crush them. With respect, Minister, Ryla continued, this species demonstrates unusual creativity and pattern recognition. Their scientific advancement curve over the past century is steeper than any organic species we've cataloged, and their social structures are remarkably resilient to disruption. Vexer studied the young analyst. Are you suggesting these humans pose a threat to the Cathar Empire? The chamber filled with rumbling laughter again. Ryla stood her ground. I'm suggesting they may not respond according to standard conquest models. Their historical records show smaller forces defeating technologically superior ones through unconventional tactics. They call it asymmetric warfare. I recommend a preliminary strike on an isolated military installation to evaluate their defensive capabilities before committing our main force. Vexer considered this. Though he dismissed the notion that these tiny creatures could pose any real challenge, Ryla's caution aligned with Cathar military doctrine: test, then crush. A prudent approach, he finally agreed. We will launch a single destroyer to attack one of their remote military outposts. General Mulder, select a suitable target with minimal civilian presence. We are conquerors, not exterminators. At least, not initially. As the War Council dispersed, Vexer stopped Ryla. Your caution is noted, analyst. But remember, organic species are fundamentally inferior. We are the Cathar. We do not know defeat. Ryla bowed her head respectfully. Of course, Admiral. I merely suggest we know our enemy before we eradicate them. They are not an enemy, Vexer corrected her. They are simply the next world to fall. From the destroyer Inevitability, Commander Zurich observed the isolated human military installation through tactical sensors. The Cathar vessel hovered 30 kilometers above the Arctic landscape, its cloaking systems rendering it invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. Target confirmed, Weapons Officer Drac reported. Human designation: Thule Air Base, Greenland. Population approximately 600 personnel. Minimal heavy weaponry detected. Zark nodded. Begin the attack. Standard orbital bombardment protocol. The destroyer's primary weapons batteries charged with a distinctive high-pitched whine. Moments later, lances of superheated plasma streaked through the atmosphere, striking with pinpoint precision. The base's radar installations, communications towers, and airfield erupted in explosions visible even from orbit. First wave successful, Drac announced. No resistance detected. No launch of aerial defenses. As expected, Zarek said. Prepare ground forces for deployment. Capture any surviving humans for analysis. Within minutes, 3 Cathar landing craft descended through the atmosphere, each carrying 20 combat troops in full exo-armor. The Cathar soldiers, already imposing at their natural height, became walking mountains of destruction in their battle suits, standing nearly 20 feet tall and armed with plasma cannons that could vaporize a tank. The first landing craft touched down at the smoldering center of the base. Cathar troops marched down the deployment ramp, scanning for resistance. The scene was one of devastation, buildings reduced to rubble, vehicles ablaze, no signs of organized defense. Sector 1 clear, reported Squad Leader Gorn. Moving to, his transmission ended in a burst of static. Squad Leader, Zarek called from the command ship. Report. When no response came, he switched to the squad's tactical feed. The visual showed confusion. Cathar soldiers firing at targets too small and fast to track clearly. One trooper fell, then another. The camera view jolted wildly before going dark. Second squad, report. Zarek demanded. Under attack, came the response. Humans using some kind of armor-piercing projectiles. They're targeting joint sections. We've lost 3. Another burst of static. On the ground, the Cathar forces found themselves in an unexpected situation. From the rubble and smoke emerged small teams of human soldiers, moving with coordinated precision. Their weapons, seemingly primitive ballistic rifles, had been modified to fire specialized ammunition that exploited weaknesses in Cathar exo-armor. Worse, the humans utilized the terrain and their small size with devastating effectiveness. They darted between debris, using tight spaces where the massive Cathar couldn't follow. They set ambushes, using explosives not to kill, but to disable, following up with concentrated fire on exposed areas. By the time the third landing craft recognized the danger and attempted to retreat, it was too late. Surface-to-air missiles, undetected by Cathar scans, locked onto the craft and brought it down in flames. Commander Zurich watched in disbelief as his ground forces were systematically dismantled by an enemy they should have overwhelmed easily. "Impossible," he muttered. "Launch recovery drones. We need specimens and technology samples." The combat drones succeeded where soldiers had failed, capturing 3 injured human soldiers and various equipment pieces before retreating to orbit. As the destroyer accelerated away from Earth, Zarek personally inspected the prisoners. The humans were tiny indeed, barely reaching his knee, but they glared up at him with defiance rather than fear. One of them, despite bleeding from a head wound, actually spat at Zarek's feet. "Your species lacks survival instinct," Zarek noted. "Interesting." The captured equipment proved even more puzzling. The weapons were indeed based on chemical propellants, but the ammunition contained unknown alloys and miniaturized guidance systems. The communications devices used encryption protocols, surprisingly sophisticated for their technological level. Most disturbing were the body armor components, lightweight but remarkably effective, with properties that shouldn't have been possible given Earth's known technological development. "Prepare a full report," Zarek ordered his science officer. "Something is wrong here." When a report reached Admiral Vexer aboard the Annihilator, his reaction was explosive. Crystal fragments flew from his exoskeleton as he slammed his fist into the tactical display. "Incompetence," he roared. "A destroyer and 60 elite troops defeated by primitives? Impossible." Ryla, present for the debriefing, studied the data carefully. "The humans were prepared, Admiral. Their weapons were specifically designed to target weaknesses in our armor. That suggests prior knowledge." "Impossible," Vexer repeated. "We've never encountered this species before." "Perhaps they recovered technology from another spacefaring race," Ryla suggested. "Or perhaps we underestimated their observational capabilities." War Minister Thraz dismissed her concerns. "A lucky engagement. Nothing more. Their primitive projectile weapons found vulnerabilities by chance, and Zarek's troops were careless." "Commander Zarek has conquered 17 worlds," Ryla pointed out. "He is not known for carelessness." Vexer studied the holographic replay of the battle. These humans fought with unusual discipline, and their tactics— he shook his massive head. "No matter. This was merely one outpost with specially trained forces. Against our full invasion, they will crumble." He turned to his command staff. "Prepare all ships for atmospheric entry. We will target their major population centers simultaneously. Overwhelm their defenses with sheer force. No more testing, we strike with everything." Ryla opened her mouth to object, but caught Thraz's warning glare. She bowed instead. "As you command, Admiral." As she left the command chamber, Vexer called after her. "Analyst Ryla, since you find these creatures so fascinating, you are reassigned to data collection duty. You will catalog their cultural artifacts before they are eradicated." Ryla bowed again, accepting the humiliating demotion without comment. But as she walked to her new station, her mind raced with the implications of what she'd seen. Something about these humans didn't fit any model the Kthar had encountered before, and that made them dangerous in ways her superiors refused to see. The skies above Earth's major cities darkened as the Kthar invasion fleet descended. Massive warships, each capable of destroying a continent, positioned themselves over strategic targets: New York, Beijing, Moscow, London, Tokyo. Smaller attack craft swarmed around them like insects, ready to neutralize any airborne resistance. Humanity's conventional defenses responded as expected. Fighter jets scrambled worldwide only to be swatted from the sky. Missile launches ended in mid-air explosions as Kthar point defense systems activated. Anti-aircraft batteries fired uselessly at vessels protected by energy shields that made them invulnerable to such primitive weapons. From the Annihilator, hovering above the United Nations headquarters in New York, Admiral Vexer broadcast a message to all Earth's communication networks. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Vexer of the Kthar Empire. Your world is now under our control. Surrender your governments and resources, and your lives will be spared. Resistance is futile and will result in your extermination." The response came not in words, but in action, as Kthar ground forces began their deployment into major urban centers. Expecting minimal resistance, they encountered something entirely unexpected. The first sign came in Moscow's Red Square. A Kthar battle group advanced through the abandoned plaza when the air around them seemed to shimmer. Suddenly, they were surrounded by what appeared to be mechanical insects, hundreds of them, each no larger than a human hand, moving in perfect coordination. Before the Kthar could react, the tiny machines attached themselves to joints in the aliens' exo-armor and detonated targeted electromagnetic pulses, shorting out combat systems. In Tokyo, Kthar troops found themselves attacked by swarms of miniature drones that fired pin-sized projectiles with surgical precision. The tiny weapons found the microscopic gaps in Kthar armor, optical sensors, breathing apparatus, hydraulic connectors. And in New York, as landing craft disgorged troops near Central Park, they were met by what at first appeared to be children's toys, small, agile robots rolling, leaping, and flying in coordinated patterns. The Kthar laughed at the tiny machines, until they unleashed weapons that cut through alien armor with focused energy beams precisely matched to the resonant frequency of Kthar exoskeletons. "What is this?" War Minister Thraz demanded, watching feeds from a dozen battlefronts showing similar scenes. "These are not the weapons we detected." Vexer's crystalline face remained impassive, but rage vibrated through his voice. "These humans hide their true capabilities. Their primitive appearance was a deception." "No, Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. Ryla had abandoned her assigned post to return to the command deck. "I don't believe it was deception. I think this is adaptation, rapid, targeted adaptation." She accessed the main tactical display without waiting for permission. "Look at these tiny army units they're deploying. The design architectures vary by region, but they all share core principles optimized against our specific vulnerabilities. They're not pre-existing weapons. They were created in response to our probe attack." "Impossible," Thraz scoffed. "No species could develop countermeasures this quickly." Vexer studied the tactical displays more carefully. "Continue the invasion," he ordered. "These machines are an annoyance, not a threat. Deploy second-wave troops with electromagnetic shielding." The battle for Earth intensified. Kthar forces pushed deeper into urban centers, adapting their tactics to counter the swarms of tiny combat units. The invaders' superior numbers and firepower began to tell, despite surprising losses. Human military forces, fighting alongside their mechanical allies, retreated in good order, trading space for time in classic defensive maneuvers. From her unofficial position at a secondary console, Ryla continued her analysis. Something about these tiny army units troubled her. Their movements were too precise, too responsive to changing conditions. Most automated combat systems showed patterns and limitations, but these seemed to learn and adapt in real time. She isolated video feeds from various battlefronts, enhancing images of the machines in action. The smallest were indeed fully automated, but the larger units, those approximating the size of human children, moved differently. Their reactions weren't programmed. They were intuitive. When one such unit was damaged in London, Ryla froze the frame and enhanced the image. Through a crack in the outer shell, she glimpsed something that sent a chill through her silicon body. An organic eye, unmistakably human, staring out from within the mechanical construct. Before she could process this discovery, alarms blared throughout the flagship. "Intruder alert. Security breach in engineering section." Vexer roared orders as reports flooded in. Somehow, human forces had infiltrated multiple Kthar vessels simultaneously. Not the tiny combat machines, but something else, something that had evaded all security protocols. In the confusion, Ryla downloaded her findings to a secure data node. Something told her this information might soon be vital, if any Kthar survived to use it. Deep within the command ship, Kthar security forces cornered the intruders in a maintenance bay. What they found defied explanation. Humans, actual humans, wearing form-fitting exoskeletons that enhanced their speed and strength. The suits were a masterpiece of miniaturization, allowing the tiny beings to move with astonishing agility through maintenance ducts and service passages too small for Kthar to follow. "Surrender, primitives," the security chief demanded. In response, the lead human operator activated something on their wrist. Throughout the ship, and indeed throughout the invasion fleet, pre-planted devices activated simultaneously. Shield generators failed. Weapons systems went offline. Communication arrays dissolved into clouds of metallic dust as microscopic nanobots executed their programmed destruction. On the command deck, chaos reigned as systems failed one after another. Vexor bellowed orders that couldn't be carried out as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. "Admiral," Riley shouted over the din, "we must withdraw. The humans have compromised our entire fleet." "No retreat," Vexor roared. "We are Kthar. We do not know defeat." The tactical display, still functioning on emergency power, told a different story. Kthar forces planet-wide were in disarray. The tiny combat units had been joined by larger mech suits piloted by humans, targeting key invasion assets with devastating precision. And now, rising from concealed bases around the planet, came vessels that hadn't appeared on any Kthar scan. Human warships that, while small compared to Kthar dreadnoughts, carried weapons that somehow bypassed alien shielding completely. This was a trap, Ryla realized aloud. They knew we were coming. They were prepared specifically for us. "Impossible," Thraz insisted, but his voice lacked conviction. The ship rocked as something breached the hull. Security feeds showed human strike teams in powered armor swarming through the breaches, moving with precision that spoke of intimate knowledge of Kthar vessel design. "Ow!" Vexor demanded. His mighty form braced against a console as the ship listed. How could they know so much about us? Ryla accessed emergency protocols, bringing a backup communication array online. "We need to warn the Empire," she insisted. "These humans are not what we thought. They've been preparing for this, possibly for decades." "Preparing for what?" Thraz demanded. "We've never encountered them before." "Perhaps we have," Ryla countered, working furiously at her console. "The missing research vessel from the Proxima expedition 3 decades ago. It could have reached this system. One ship," Vexor scoffed. "Even if these humans captured it, they couldn't have reverse-engineered our technology so completely." A human voice answered him, broadcast somehow through the ship's own communication system. "You'd be surprised what we can do, Admiral Vexor." The voice was calm, confident, speaking the Kthar language perfectly. "Humanity has been aware of the Kthar Empire for over 50 years. We've been preparing for this day since your scout ship crashed in our Siberian territory in 1978. Screens throughout the command deck activated, showing a human female in a form-fitting command uniform. Though tiny by Kthar standards, her presence carried undeniable authority. "I am General Sarah Reeves, Earth Defense Force. You should know that your invasion fleet has been compromised beyond recovery. Your ground forces are cut off and being systematically disabled. Your remaining ships are surrounded." Vexor snarled, his crystalline fangs gleaming. "You lie, human. The Kthar Empire spans 3 galactic sectors. This is merely one fleet. When we don't return, 100 more will follow." The human's expression remained impassive. "Perhaps, but they'll find something very different from what you reported. You thought us primitive, backward, easy prey. Your overconfidence has cost you everything." She leaned closer to the camera. "We recovered your scout ship intact, Admiral. We've spent decades studying your technology, your biology, your tactics. We built our defenses specifically to counter Kthar capabilities." "Impossible," Thraz whispered. "No organic species could understand our technology so quickly." "You underestimated us because we're small," General Reeves continued. "You laughed at our tiny army until you realized those machines had human pilots. Humans whose smaller size allows for greater speed, agility, and infiltration capability than your large, silicon-based forms could ever achieve." The ship shuddered again as more systems failed. Warning lights bathed the command deck in crimson. "You have a choice, Admiral," the human said. "Unconditional surrender or complete destruction." We would prefer the former. Despite your aggression, humanity doesn't desire genocide. Vexor's rage manifested as crystalline spikes erupting from his exoskeleton, a Cthar stress response. We are Cthar. We do not surrender. General Reeves sighed. As you wish. The transmission cut. Moments later, the ship's artificial intelligence announced in a monotone. Core systems compromised. Quantum containment failing. Catastrophic overload in 3 minutes. Ryla acted instantly, overriding the command lockouts with emergency protocols. All personnel, abandon ship. Evacuation Protocol Alpha. Countermand that. Vexor roared. We stand and fight. But the ship was already coming apart around them. Escape pods jettisoned from all levels as Cthar crew chose survival over certain death. Ryla hesitated only long enough to download her accumulated data on human capabilities before racing for the last escape pod. You are a coward, analyst. Vexor called after her. I am a survivor, she replied, and the Empire must know the truth. As her pod ejected, Ryla caught a final glimpse of Admiral Vexor, standing proudly on his disintegrating command deck, refusing to acknowledge defeat until the final explosion consumed him. General Sarah Reeves watched from the command center of the EDEF flagship Defender as the massive Cthar vessels either surrendered or were destroyed. After 50 years of preparation, the battle had lasted less than 12 hours. Casualties, she asked her executive officer. Minimal, General. Our mech units took the brunt of it. 73 pilots injured, 9 critically. Civilian casualties, approximately 2,000 worldwide, mostly from the initial bombardment. Reeves nodded grimly. Too many, but far better than we projected. She turned to a tall, white-haired man monitoring communications. Dr. Werner, what's the status of the captured Cthar technology? Secure, General. Their quantum drives alone will advance our science by decades. The biological samples will help us prepare better countermeasures should we face them again. And the prisoners? 317 Cthar personnel have surrendered. Most are technical staff, not warriors. They're being processed according to protocol. Reeves stared at the tactical display, showing green icons representing secured Cthar vessels and ground forces. Have we identified any high-ranking officers among the survivors? 1, Werner replied. A strategic analyst named Ryla. Apparently, she tried to warn them about underestimating us. She's requesting asylum. Interesting, Reeves mused. I want to speak with her personally. In a secure holding facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, Ryla waited in a chamber specially constructed to accommodate her silicon-based physiology. Though technically a prisoner, she'd been treated with unexpected dignity by her human captors. When General Reeves entered, Ryla was struck by how tiny the human commander was, barely 1/6 her own height. Yet this diminutive organic being had orchestrated the complete defeat of the most powerful military force in the known galaxy. Strategic analyst Ryla. Reeves addressed her in perfect Cthar language. I hope you've been treated well. Ryla inclined her head. Better than I expected, General. Your species shows remarkable adaptability. That's one way to put it, Reeves smiled. Another might be stubborn refusal to die. I understand you try to warn your superiors about us. I noted patterns suggesting your species might not conform to standard conquest models, Ryla acknowledged. I was insufficiently persuasive. Reeves studied the alien carefully. You're wondering how he knew so much about the Cthar. The question has occurred to me. Reeves activated a holographic display showing the wreckage of a Cthar vessel. In 1978, this scout ship crashed in Siberia. The Soviet Union recovered it before we even knew aliens existed. They found one survivor, a junior science officer named Krell. Ryla's crystalline eyes widened. The Proxima expedition. It was declared lost with all hands. Krell lived for 3 years in captivity, Reeves continued. Long enough to establish basic communication and provide crucial information about Cthar biology and technology. After the Soviet Union fell, that information was shared internationally. Humanity realized we weren't alone and that we were potential targets. So you prepared, Ryla concluded, for 50 years. We formed the Earth Defense Force in 1983, a secret, international organization dedicated to preparing for extraterrestrial threats. When we detected your long-range probes 20 years ago, we accelerated our plans. We knew the Cthar would come eventually. Ryla processed this information. Your tiny army, it was specifically designed to exploit our weaknesses. Size became our advantage, Reeves explained. Human pilots in mechanized combat units could access spaces Cthar troops couldn't. Our natural agility, combined with neural interfaces and targeted weapons, allowed us to overcome your superior strength and armor. And now, Ryla asked, what happens to the surviving Cthar? That depends partly on you, Reeves said. We have no desire for war with your empire, but we will defend ourselves if threatened again. The empire will come, Ryla stated flatly. When this fleet doesn't return, they will send others. Then we need a messenger, Reeves suggested. Someone to explain what happened here. Someone they might actually listen to. Ryla understood immediately. You want me to return to Cthar space? With evidence, Reeves confirmed. Show your leaders what happened when they underestimated us. Make them understand that further aggression will only result in more Cthar deaths. You're offering peace? After we attempted to conquer your world, we're offering coexistence, Reeves clarified. Humanity is ready to join the galactic community. We'd prefer to do so without more bloodshed. Ryla considered the proposition. As a strategic analyst, she could calculate the probable outcomes of continued conflict. The Cthar might eventually overwhelm Earth through sheer numbers, but the cost would be catastrophic for both sides. I will take your message, she finally agreed. But my leaders may not listen. Then make them listen, Reeves said firmly. Tell them what you witnessed here. Tell them how a tiny army defeated the mighty Cthar. 1 month later, Ryla stood before the Supreme Council of the Cthar Empire, delivering the most difficult report of her career. The chamber, carved from a single massive crystal deep within the Cthar homeworld, amplified her every word. And so, honored leaders, I must report that the Earth expedition under Admiral Vexer was a complete failure. Of 200 ships and 50,000 personnel, only 17 vessels and 317 individuals returned. The council chamber erupted in outrage. Supreme Leader Kar's massive form rose to its full height, crystalline spikes extending from his exoskeleton in rage. Impossible, he thundered. No primitive species could defeat our forces so completely. Nevertheless, Ryla continued steadily. It happened. I have brought comprehensive data on human capabilities for your review. She activated a holographic projection showing the human tiny army in action, mechs ranging from insect-sized drones to humanoid combat units, all working in perfect coordination to dismantle Cthar forces. The humans knew we were coming, she explained. They prepared specifically for Cthar tactics and technology. They turned their small size, what we considered their greatest weakness, into their greatest strength. She showed footage of human pilots interfacing with their mech units, moving with a speed and precision no Cthar could match. She displayed the specialized weapons they had developed, precisely calibrated to exploit vulnerabilities in Cthar biology and technology. Most critically, she concluded, they offer terms, not surrender. They know we wouldn't accept that, but mutual recognition and non-aggression. Preposterous, War Minister Gorvin snarled. We should assemble the Grand Fleet and reduce their world to ash. Ryla faced him calmly. With respect, Minister, that would be a catastrophic error. The humans now possess Cthar technology captured from our vessels. They have demonstrated an extraordinary capacity to adapt and innovate. A second invasion would face even more effective resistance. Supreme Leader Kar studied Ryla with ancient, calculating eyes. You believe these humans truly represent a threat to the Empire? I believe they represent a potential ally, or at minimum, a species best left undisturbed, Ryla replied carefully. They have no expansionist agenda. They seek only to protect their world. And if we refuse their terms? Kar asked. Ryla activated one final recording. General Reeves' parting message to the Cthar leadership. The tiny human appeared in the center of the council chamber, standing proudly despite her diminutive size compared to the massive Cthar leaders. Supreme Leader Kar, Reeves addressed him directly. Humanity has no desire for conflict with the Cthar Empire. We defend our own, nothing more. But know this, if you send another fleet, it will meet the same fate as the first. We now understand your technology, your biology, your tactics. We have integrated them into our own defenses. Her expression hardened. Do not mistake our size for weakness. Do not mistake our desire for peace as fear. We are small, but we are humans. And our tiny army carries the fighting spirit of an entire species that has never accepted defeat. The recording ended. Silence filled the vast crystal chamber. Finally, Supreme Leader Kar spoke. Analyst Ryla, you have fulfilled your duty by bringing this information to us. Leave us now while the council deliberates. As Ryla departed, she heard the heated debate begin behind her. War against humans? Peace? Containment? The Cthar Empire faced an unprecedented situation, a seemingly inferior species that had handed them a devastating defeat. Whatever the council decided, Ryla knew that the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The mighty Cthar had learned a harsh lesson: never judge by size alone. For when the smallest creatures fight with the greatest determination, even giants can fall. On Earth, General Reeves stood at the window of EDEF headquarters, watching as construction crews integrated salvaged Cthar technology into new defense systems. Humanity now stood on the threshold of a new era, aware of its place in a larger, more dangerous universe, but confident in its ability to protect itself. They'll come again, won't they? Asked Colonel Lee, her second-in-command. Perhaps, Reeves acknowledged. Or perhaps they'll choose a wiser path. And if they don't, Reeves smiled grimly. Then the tiny army will be waiting.